As I then started thinking through how these policies work, it helped me understand how white rage worked and why it's so difficult for us to identify it. And it's because white rage doesn't require visible violence. White rage works very silently, methodically, corrosively through the legislature, through the school boards, through the White House, through Congress. It wreaks havoc subtly, imperceptibly. And so I set out to make white rage visible by blowing graphite on its fingerprints so I could track its movements historically over time.
She is not holding back. Carol Anderson, the author, historian, and fearless truth-teller, is pulling the curtain on one of America's ugliest open secrets, the deep institutional roots of white rage against Black progress. Watch and pay attention, and I will share my thought later.
I'm going to talk about how I got to white rage. Not how I got to white rage, but how I got to white rage. And Ferguson looks like it's the beginning, but it's not quite. It actually began for me as a scholar in February 1999, when a Black man stepped out of his apartment in New York City. And he had been working all day. And you know that when you've been working all day and you're just tired, but you're hungry, and you just got to go get some food because you're tired and you're hungry, but you can't really go to sleep because you're hungry because you've been working all day. And so you just want to go get you something to eat. And that's what this young man did. And he stepped out onto his porch as he's getting ready to go down the street to go get some food. And 4 officers of the New York Police Department pulled up in their car, hopped out, guns drawn, and began firing. 41 bullets later, Amadou Diallo went down. Amadou Diallo was unarmed. Amadou Diallo wasn't wanted for a doggone thing. Yet here was this Black man, 23 years old. 19 of those bullets hit him. He was armed with his wallet. Now, that's bad enough. There's no piece of that that's good. But then I'm watching Nightline with Ted Koppel, and he's interviewing Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Thank you. I see, I got an amen corner over there. I hear it. I hear the cadence. And, you know, and Ted Koppel is not some softball pitching interviewer. Ted Koppel comes at you hardcore. And Ted Koppel's looking at Rudy Giuliani and he's going, Amadou, Amadou, Amadou. And Rudy's looking at him going, my policies are working. New York City is safer than it has been in years. Crime is down. New Yorkers are feeling safe and secure. And the policy that he talked about as he had his little flip charts showing crime decreasing, the policies that he talked about was broken windows policing. And what broken windows policing does is it says that you hyper-police an area so that if somebody throws a piece of trash down on the ground, you pull them over. If somebody is riding a bicycle on the sidewalk, if they jaywalk, hyper-policing was a way to basically criminalize the Black and brown communities in New York City, to terrorize them for all intents and purposes. Now, as I sat here listening to him talk about how his policies were working, but Amadou Diallo is dead in a hail of bullets, I'm thinking Amadou Diallo is not feeling safe. And Rudy Giuliani said, but my police force is the most restrained and the best behaved in the United States of America. My policies are working. And I'm sitting up there going, because most behaved and best restrained don't put 41 bullets at an unarmed man. But I didn't know what to call this thing. So as a scholar, I kept working, I kept reading, I kept writing, I kept researching, I kept reading and writing and researching and thinking and writing and researching. And then, August 2014, I've got the TV on, and Ferguson is on fire. It is ablaze. And I'm flipping from the different stations, and it didn't matter which station I was listening to. It didn't matter if it was MSNBC, that's my left hand, MSNBC, CNN, or Fox. None of that mattered. Because each and every one of them were saying the same thing. Look at black folks burning up where they live. Can you believe that black people are burning up where they live? Ooh, look at those black folk burning up where they lived. Can you believe they burned up? Did you know black people were burning up where they lived? Did you see those black people burning up where they lived? I mean, and you know, it was, I'm flipping from station to station, and it was the same thing. And I found myself shaking my head to the point where I could see my shoulders, you know, and then there's, because what I was listening to was an ahistorical account. An ahistorical account that was treading in the same path of the narrative of black pathology that happens in the United States. There is something fundamentally wrong with black people because now they're burning up where they live. The problem was, as I looked at this, I said, as a nation, we are so focused in on the flames that we've missed the kindling. We have missed the policies that have created this. So as the pundits are talking about black rage, I said, no, this is white rage. This is white rage. Oh my gosh, this is white rage. Because I had lived in Missouri for 13 years, and I saw the way that the policies worked to undermine African Americans' access to their citizenship rights. Let's talk about the kindling briefly. The right to vote. Ferguson is 67% black. In the 2013 municipal election, the black voter turnout rate was 6%. What does it take to turn 67% into 6%? This is almost looking like Alabama, 1950. Policies. And you begin to think about what a disfranchised people feel like. 6%. Or let's talk about schools and education. Michael Brown's school district, the Ferguson School District. Missouri has an accreditation system where it provides 140 points for each school district, that you can get up to 140 points on your accreditation scale. Graduation rates, standardized test scores, matriculation rates, gives you up to 140. What do you think Michael Brown's school district got? Give me a guess. 50? 50. Another guess? Lower. 35. Lower. 13.
Bingo.
Exactly. 10. Out of 140 points for 15 years. Begin to think about what that looks like when we are willing as policymakers and as a society to put an entire generation of children through a school system that can garner no more than 10 points on a 140-point scale. And we're not done yet, because we're getting ready to send another generation of Black students through that same school system. Kindling. Then let's talk about the police, because we know that the spark for all of this kindling was the killing of Michael Brown. The narrative that we have in America is that the police are here to protect and serve. How many have heard that? Because there are these mantras that we just kind of know. In Ferguson, the police force was there to look at that Black community as revenue generators. Driving 26 and a 25, you didn't put your blinker on when you changed lanes. That didn't look like a full stop. Is that a busted tail light? The kinds of fines and fees and court costs extracted from that working class Black community accounted for 25% of the city's operating revenues. And just to be clear, this isn't justice being blind. When the police would happen to stop somebody white, they were like, oops, sorry. Or if the officer would happen to write the ticket when that white person went to the courthouse to pay, it's like, how did you get this? Oh, you don't have to pay. So you have disparate policing, disparate criminal justice system happening in Ferguson, Missouri. Kindling. These policies have power, and we have to recognize that power. And as I then started thinking through how these policies work, it helped me understand how white rage worked and why it's so difficult for us to identify it. And it's because white rage doesn't require visible violence. White rage works very silently, methodically, corrosively, through the legislature, through the school boards, through the White House, through Congress. It wreaks havoc subtly, imperceptibly. And so I set out to make white rage visible by blowing graphite on its fingerprints so I could track its movements historically over time. And one of the first things that I began to figure out, because this is a process as you're working through this thing. One of the things that I began to figure out was that it was not the mere presence of Black people that was the trigger for white rage. Instead, it was Black people who aspired, Black people who achieved, Black people who refused to accept their subjugation, Black people who demanded their basic rights. That's the trigger for white rage. And through a formidable array of policy assaults and legal contortions, white rage consistently punishes Black aspiration, Black achievement, And I know this sounds so doggone counterintuitive, doesn't it? It just, what? Because what we know is this is the land of opportunity, where all you have to do is work hard. And you too can and achieve the yes, we know this. It's like in the air we breathe, isn't it? And think about it in the venue, in different venues. It's like we know this culturally, so that we can finish this sentence. This is the land of opportunity. All you have to do is work hard, keep your nose clean, go to school, get out and vote. Yes? Yes. So then, how is it then that government after government after government has worked hard to ensure that Black children do not get an education? I don't think you heard me, so I'm going to start again. Because again, that sounds like, we've got Brown, the Brown decision of 1954. Brown 2 of 1955 that says, with all deliberate speed. The South dug in with what's called massive resistance, where you have over 100 senators and congressional representatives signing a manifesto saying that they will do everything in their power to undermine the Supreme Court decision and to block implementation of the Supreme Court decision, which should be the law of the land. And they did. They figured out different things like, they say we have to have equal public schools. We'll shut down the entire school system. That way it's equal. Nobody gets a public education. I'm telling you, when you read through this stuff, you're like, really, dog? But what they also know is that white parents weren't having it. What do you mean my child's not going to get an education? So then what they did as part of this package of shutting down the public schools so that they could meet the standard of Brown was then to provide taxpayer dollars to pay tuition for white children to go to all white private academies, so that white children's education would continue to happen apace and be funded by the state, be funded by taxpayer dollars, which meant Black people as well, because Black folks were paying taxes, while there was nothing available for Black children. So in Prince Edward County, Virginia, for instance, because Virginia led the massive resistance battle. In Virginia, they shut down the public school system in Prince Edward County for 5 years. Now think about that. You're in the 5th grade and your school system shuts down, and it doesn't open up again until you're in the 10th grade. Think about what you have lost in terms of education in those crucial 5 years. This is also at the moment where the U.S. economy is changing. It's moving from a manufacturing-based, industrial-based economy to a knowledge and technology-based economy. When you don't have the education, as the economic ground underneath you changes, your ability to be part of that economy has been completely sabotaged. Let's also deal with a moment in this education component. Remember, Brown 1, 1954, Brown 2, 1955. And let me give you some framework of what's driving Brown, because I think that that's going to help too. The Plessy v. Ferguson decision of 1896 said separate but equal. Now, the southern states hopped on separate, as my brother would say, with a quickness. They pounced on separate. But the smaller word equal just defied. It was like equal. What does that mean? It means that, for instance, in Amity County, Mississippi, white children were funded at a tune of a little over $30 per head. Black children, $3. It means that in Atlanta, that would be the city too busy to hate, that they didn't have enough schools for black children. So black children had to go on a partial day basis. 85% of black children never had a full school day. They went for a few hours, and then another wave of black children came in for a few more hours, and then another wave of black children came in for a few more hours. By the way, this would be after World War II, after the US has helped defeat the Nazis. I just need to also make this clear in terms of what we're talking about here. So by the time we're getting into Brown 1 and then Brown 2, 54, 55, 1957, because the South has still dug in. The Soviets, we're in the middle of the Cold War. The Soviets launched Sputnik. And it's the satellite that went up, and you heard beep, beep, beep. Eisenhower went, dang, dang, dang. Because what that meant is that the US knew that the Soviets had nukes, but believed that the Soviets did not have the technology to get that nuclear arsenal across the ocean. They could hit Germany, and that's why you have the forward bases, American bases in Germany. But they said they can't get it across the ocean. Beep, beep, beep. Eisenhower's moving, the Department of Defense is moving, and what they come up with is like, we have got to have the brain power to fight the Cold War.
Carrie Anderson is not just another academic. She's a New York Times best-selling author, a professional at Emory University, and the powerful voice behind the groundbreaking book White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. According to Anderson, white rage is a silent, strategic backlash that follows every major step forward for African Americans. It is not always loud, but it is deliberate, and it is devastating. When black people make progress, legally, politically, socially, the system reacts. Voter ID laws after Obama, the war on drugs after civil rights, school closure, and funding cuts in black neighborhoods. That is white rage. Carrie Anderson breaks down how policies that seem race neutral are actually targeted strikes against black stability. Whether it is gerrymandering, school resegregation, or following disenfranchisement, these are not coincidences. They are coordinated responses. In recent years, white rage has evolved from the Capitol insurrection to the backlash against critical race theory, from attacks on DEI initiatives to the banning of black history in schools. Anderson says the pattern continues. Progress is followed by punishment, and silence is no longer an option. Carrie Anderson is pushing for truth in classrooms, courtrooms, and conversations, because only by exposing the rage, we can begin to dismantle its roots. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.